Millions of years ago existed a world that no longer exists, ruled by titans of scale, fang, fury. Today we journey through the lost Cretaceous. The most feared predator of this age appears only at the end. Listen closely. That low rumble in the dark is not thunder. It is breath. It is patience. It is the sound of a hunter older than any nightmare humanity has ever dared to invent. Before we meet it, we walk the world that forged it, drowned in green, drenched in suffocating heat, alive with monsters whose bones still trouble our museums. The deadliest of them all waits at the end. But first, the world that birthed the monsters. The Cretaceous period stretched for 79 million relentless years. 79 million years of slow, relentless transformation. When it began, the supercontinent Pangaea was already breaking apart. By the time it ended, our planet's map had cracked into shapes a modern eye might almost recognize. Africa drifted south. South America peeled away. India became a lonely island drifting north across a vanished ocean. There was no ice at the poles, none. The seas were warm from equator to distant Arctic shore. Shallow inland seas flooded the heart of continents, splitting North America in two from north to south. Forests of conifers and cycads gave way to something new, something that would change every food chain: flowers. The first true flowering plants spread across the Cretaceous like a silent revolution. Magnolias, early relatives of figs. Then grasses late in the era, whispering in the wind beneath the colossal feet of walking giants. Insects evolved to drink their sweet nectar. Tiny mammals scurried beneath tangled roots in the deepening dark. And above them all, the dinosaurs grew larger, stranger, more specialized than any creatures that came before. The Cretaceous was not one ecosystem, but thousands. Coastal swamps hid crocodiles longer than buses beneath lily pads. River deltas heavy with mud and bone. High deserts where wind carved towering dunes the color of rust. Polar forests endured months of darkness each year, lit only by auroras and the slow breath of sleeping herds. Into this hothouse walks the first icon. Long before the northern king arrived, another monarch ruled ancient Africa. His name, given by modern science, is Carcharodontosaurus, the shark-toothed lizard. He earned it with every serrated blade. Carcharodontosaurus stood as tall as a two-story building. His skull alone measured longer than a grown human is tall. Inside that skull, rows of curved teeth sliced like saw blades, built not to crush but to carve wounds. Each tooth opened vast wounds, letting prey bleed itself into stillness across the river deltas of ancient North Africa. 100 million years ago, that desert was a green labyrinth of water and reeds, alive with hidden movement. Titanosaurs the size of cargo ships waded through shallow lagoons. Carcharodontosaurus stalked them silently along the muddy banks. A single charge, a single strike across the flank, and a 50-ton creature could be doomed to bleed out. He was not alone. The same rivers were patrolled by another giant, Spinosaurus, predator of unfathomable size. The two predators shared the landscape but rarely the menu. One hunted by water, the other hunted by land. Together they painted Africa in blood and silt. Two titans dividing a lost world between river and reed. For ages, scientists believed Carcharodontosaurus was the largest predator that ever walked. New measurements have softened that claim. But none have softened the terror. To stand before him was to stand before something whose breath shook leaves. Yet stranger hunters lurked along the rivers. Spinosaurus is a creature science is still arguing about today. For decades we drew him as a land-bound titan. Then new fossils emerged from the Moroccan desert sands. They revealed something nobody expected. A short-legged body, a long paddle-like tail, dense bones that sank rather than floated. Spinosaurus was a swimmer, a river predator. the first known, truly semi-aquatic dinosaur in Earth's history. On his back rose a tall sail of bone and skin, perhaps for display, perhaps for thermoregulation, perhaps for reasons we will never understand. His narrow snout held cone-shaped teeth, perfect for snatching giant fish. To the north and east, other monsters waited in other shapes. In what is now Mongolia roamed Therizinosaurus. It stood tall on hind legs, with a belly like a cauldron and arms ending in meter-long scythes. Those claws, longer than swords, may have pulled branches to a herbivorous mouth or defended against surrounding predators. Either way, his silhouette remains one of evolution's strangest signatures across the entire fossil record we have unearthed. Across the same dunes run small, swift killers we know best from cinema, the infamous velociraptor. Real velociraptors stood waist-high, covered in feathers like a fierce bird of prey beneath amber skies. They hunted in the dry uplands, perhaps in small coordinated groups, perhaps alone through windswept Cretaceous valleys. One fossil shows a raptor locked in eternal combat with protoceratops, revealing their courage, their hunger, their nature. Their North American cousin Deinonychus was larger, taller than a man at the hip, sickle-clawed, lightning-quick. He is the dinosaur that, when discovered, rewrote our entire understanding of the group's biology and behavior. He showed us dinosaurs were not slow-scaled lizards, they were warm, fast, intelligent, already birds essentially. Below these hunters moved their armored prey. Ankylosaurs walked the forests like living tanks with bone-shattering clapped tails. Ceratopsians grew their famous frills and horns. Triceratops, the most iconic, was still waiting in the wings of evolution. The Cretaceous was a global parade of specialists, each continent its own theater of teeth, frills and shields. But the seas hid predators no land had ever known, vast shadows beneath the waves of an inland ocean. Picture standing on the Western Interior Seaway, warm water covering half of modern North America, sun setting low. You would have seen long shadows, hungry shadows. The mosasaurs were the undisputed kings of those Cretaceous seas. Reptiles, not fish, descended from lizards that had returned to water. The largest grew longer than a bus, their jaws unhinged like a snake's. Their tails bore a shark-like fluke, driving them through depths at terrifying speeds. Whales would not exist for tens of millions of years. The mosasaurs took every role we imagine for them. Elsewhere drifted Elasmosaurus, so strange that the first scientists to reconstruct it placed its head on the wrong end. His neck was longer than his body, longer than any creature's neck before or since on this earth. He glided above schools of fish, striking down with a head that arrived before any warning could reach prey. Above the waves, the skies belonged to giants of another kind. Quetzalcoatlus, a flying reptile as tall as a giraffe standing on the ground. Its wingspan stretched 12 meters or more. It walked on all fours between flights, stalking small dinosaurs and carrion like an enormous, terrible stork. Around inland coasts, vast colonies of pteranodon nested on cliffs. Their crests glowed in the sun like brilliant banners above the surf. They snatched fish from the surface and rode warm air currents for hours without a single flap of their leathery wings. And among all these creatures, a quieter revolution unfolded. Feathered dinosaurs of every size grew brighter, lighter, smarter than before. Some of them flew, some of them sang. They were becoming the birds that would outlive every titan around them. Now imagine these worlds colliding in one hunt. Picture a Triceratops herd at a waterhole late in the bruised afternoon. The sky is bruised orange, the dust hangs low. The young Triceratops drink under the watchful gaze of the bulls. Their free horns glint at the water's rim. Frills painted with blood-colored patterns are visible from far across the plain. In the brush, eyes are watching. Predators of the late Cretaceous studied prey the way a chess master studies a careful board. Trackways frozen in ancient mud reveal that some hunters paced their targets for kilometers across the open valley floors. Bite mark studies on healed bones show that even failed attacks left scars deep enough to read millions of years later. The defenders had every advantage of mass. A grown Triceratops weighed nearly 9 tons of armored muscle and bone. Its horns could spear the chest of any attacker that misjudged the angle. Its skull itself was a living fortress. To bring one down required not strength alone, but timing, position, and the patience of a true apex predator. Bite force studies on apex predators of this era are some of the most fascinating in modern paleontology. Tooth wear patterns suggest these animals fed often on bone. They cracked it, swallowed it, digested it. Coprolites, the fossilized droppings of giant hunters, contain bony shards of vertebrae from horned and armored prey. Survival in this world depended on seconds. A misstep at a waterhole. A turn made too late. A young calf wandering 3 steps too far from the herd vanished forever into hungry watching shadow. The Cretaceous selected for vigilance, the way a furnace selects for steel. Then from the north came shadow. For most of the Cretaceous, the title of most feared predator passed between many claimants across continents. Carcharodontosaurus in Africa, Giganotosaurus in the south, Mapusaurus in the heart of Patagonia, vanished giants of bygone ages. All these titans died out before the era's final act. A new ruler then emerged in the north. He arrived late. He did not stay long, yet he became the most famous predator in Earth's history. Tyrannosaurus rex. His name means Tyrant Lizard King, and no fossil has ever earned its title more completely. He stood 12 meters from nose to tail. His skull alone was longer than a household refrigerator. Inside rested teeth the size of bananas, banked in rows, each rooted deep enough to anchor against bone. His jaws closed with force exceeding 50,000 newtons. No land animal alive today comes anywhere close. Not a lion, not a great white shark, not a Nile crocodile. The tyrant beat harder than all. Tyrannosaurus rex beat harder than any predator that has ever walked on legs across the history of life. His vision was extraordinary. The orbits of his skull point forward, granting binocular sight better than a modern hawk. He could judge distance at a glance. His olfactory bulbs were enormous, smelling decay across kilometers of forest. He could hear low frequencies vibrating in the soil long before they ever reached human ears. He hunted across a kingdom we now call Hell Creek. The land was lush, rivers winding through cypress swamps. Herds of Edmontosaurus grazed on horsetail. Triceratops bulls clashed in mating displays beneath steaming primeval canopies. Pachycephalosaurus butted heads in the underbrush. Anzu, the chicken from hell, ran across dunes on slender legs. Above them, pterosaurs traced wide circles in the heat. And through it all walked the silent king. Adults of his species likely lived alone or in loose family groups across the vast Cretaceous wilderness. Young tyrannosaurs were lean and fast, almost greyhound-like. As they aged, they grew thicker, slower, more terrible. By full size, a Tyrannosaurus rex did not need to chase. He needed only to arrive somewhere. His arrival meant absolute silence. Birds went quiet. Mammals froze beneath roots, hidden in dark, earthworm hollows. Even the great Triceratops bulls turned to face him head-on directly, because to run away was to die. Healed bite marks on Triceratops frills tell us those confrontations were genuinely real. Sometimes the king himself lost. Most of the time he did not. No contender matched his absolute dominance. He was the final apex. The last great experiment of land-based carnivory in an age that had perfected this predatory form completely. For 2 million years, Tyrannosaurus rex ruled with no living equal across the warm Cretaceous floodplains and forests. The Cretaceous had built him slowly across 77 million years of patient evolutionary preparation, design, and refinement, and then released him into a world that would not, ultimately, survive him by very long at all. Yet even this king could not outrun the sky. An asteroid 10 kilometers wide entered Earth's atmosphere. It struck the shallow sea of what is now the Yucatan Peninsula, carving a crater called Chicxulub. The crater is 200 kilometers across, buried beneath sediment, still there, a wound that never healed. The impact released energy equal to billions of atomic bombs. A wave of fire raced outward across continents. Rocks vaporized instantly. The ocean evaporated for hundreds of kilometers in every direction within moments of impact. Tsunamis taller than skyscrapers crossed the Gulf and crashed against ancient shores far beyond the impact zone. Within hours, debris fell back through the atmosphere as superheated rain. Forests across the entire planet ignited. The sky burned. Animals that survived the first minutes faced an inferno that lasted for many days. Then came the cold. Soot and ash and sulfur lifted into the upper atmosphere, blocking the sun. For months, perhaps for years, the world fell into twilight. Plants died. Plankton died across every sea. The base of every food chain on Earth collapsed. Tyrannosaurus rex, the most feared predator, starved in the dark. So did Triceratops. So did Edmontosaurus, Quetzalcoatlus, and the mosasaurs that had ridden the oceans for ages. The ammonites that had sailed the seas for hundreds of millions of years vanished in a geological instant. 3/4 of all species on Earth vanished. The non-avian dinosaurs were finally and forever gone from this world. A reign that had lasted 160 million years ended in a single bad afternoon. But modern science still hears their echoes. Paleontology has entered a renaissance, reading bones our grandfathers could never imagine. CT scans peer inside fossil skulls, reconstructing brain shapes and inner ears, revealing how dinosaurs heard, balanced, and smelled. Stable isotopes in tooth enamel reveal ancient diets, showing whether a hadrosaur drank from coastal rivers or mountain streams. We can even tell when a young tyrannosaur began hunting massive prey, shifting from small, quick meals to giants. The feather question evolves. Many smaller relatives of T-Rex bore plumage. The king's own coat remains debated. Yet modern science has confirmed the most beautiful truth of this lost world. The dinosaurs are not truly gone. Every sparrow at your window is a dinosaur. Every hawk on the wind, every duck drifting upon a pond. Birds are the surviving lineage of theropods, the same family that built Velociraptor, Deinonychus, and mighty Tyrannosaurus rex. The lost world keeps speaking, in feathers, in song, in the dawn chorus. The next epoch hides all their terror. If you have walked this far through the Cretaceous, you have stood beside titans and heard the king breathing. You watched skies burn and forests fall silent. Deeper oceans, older monsters, stranger forms still lie buried beneath rock. Subscribe to continue the journey to a world that no longer exists. Activate the bell for the next chapter. The next episode plunges into Jurassic seas, where predators older than the Tyrant King ruled the deep. With eyes like dinner plates and teeth no modern jaw can equal,